Today we play golf.
Let me show you how we do it in the pros.
Welcome to Behind the Golf Brand Podcast.
I never miss with the 7-iron.
A conversation with some of the most interesting innovators and entrepreneurs behind the biggest names in golf.
My friends were the golf clubs. I lived on the golf course. I lived on the driving range.
From pro talk
You should learn something from each and every single round you play in.
to fun from on and off the green.
Why would you play golf if you don't play it for money?
Just let me put the ball in the hole.
This is Behind the Golf Brand Podcast with Paul Liberatore. Behind the Golf Brand Podcast is sponsored by On Point, the revolutionary three-dimensional domed golf ball marker. On Point provides alignment recognition as small as a degree of inaccuracy from the planned course of the putt face angle. Endorsed by Jim Furyk, U.S. Open champion and 17-time PGA Tour winner. On Point alignment technology has been proven to increase putting performance and help lower your score. Visit onpointgolf.us and be sure to use code GA10 for a 10% discount. On Point, make more putts.
What's up, guys? Paul from Golfers Authority. Welcome to the Behind the Golf Brand Podcast. This week, I got two friends of mine, Mark and Joel from Greenwood Putters. They're about to blow up. They're friends of a friend of a friend. And then when they showed me what they got, I was like, oh, crap. So essentially what they have is a cool-ass wooden putter. That's the best way I can describe it. But they'll tell us more of the details and the story behind it. But I'm getting mine in the mail and I can't wait. So without further ado, guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's play a game. Where are you? Looks like Joel's in the minivan and Mark is in his backyard.
Yes, nailed it.
Are you really in a minivan? I was just messing around.
No, dude, I have kids. It's the coldest, quietest place
Coldest.
that I can be in my house.
But you're in Canada. It's not supposed to be cold.
Yeah.
It's always
It was
cold.
116 degrees here yesterday.
So you guys are in BC. Like, where in BC are you?
We're
On the West Coast.
hours. Yeah, 2.5 hours north of Seattle.
Like, okay, so you're on the mainland, right? You're not on the Victoria.
Not on the island. Yeah, no.
I've been
Near
to Victoria.
Vancouver.
That's really pretty.
Oh, Victoria's
fancy.
gorgeous. Yeah.
I was in like high school and I remember we went to Seattle because my cousin worked at Microsoft. That dude's freaking loaded. Like he retired 15 years ago. And so we went to his house and we went to Port something. Was that when it's like it's a
Port
top
Angeles?
Port Angeles. And then we took a ferry to Victoria. I just remember that. I was in 8th grade. But I love that place.
It's called the Black Ball Ferry.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's just so beautiful. Like where you guys live, where I live are like literally night and day, right? Because you have all forests and trees and stuff.
Mountains, rivers. We got it all, man.
116-degree weather.
Oof. It's too
That's
much.
a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, it was too much.
I mean, you guys even have AC where you live? Probably not.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, dude. We're not.
Well, I know
in a
people who
stone
don't have
age.
AC and they live in California. And they're like, oh, well, then they have to go buy an AC when they get a heat wave. They're like, this sucks.
Well, the news said 60% of homes have AC, so that's not a lot. So there's definitely people suffering the last few days.
Ugh. I remember when I was in college,
too.
like I was in Indiana and my freshman year, we were in a dorm. And the dorm was built in the 50s, right? So it didn't have AC in it. Cause like, oh, it's Indiana. What? Oh my God, dude, it was so hot in there. Like for the first 6 weeks of school, like you have those big box fans, like blowing full blast, but it doesn't do anything. I just remember sweating my ass off. So I remember. I was like, why don't you have an AC out here? It's so weird. But so tell me how you guys met.
Well, we actually met. We headed to a men's retreat, and I was riding with about 4 or 5 guys, and we all had this tea time, and we were so far behind schedule, and we ended up being the last group out for the day. It was kind of I guess everyone had different tea times or whatever, but lo and behold, Joel showed up with one other guy. And we ended up playing a best ball scramble with 5 people. And so we played the whole day together and we ended up winning. I mean, which you should.
Really?
With 5 people. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's best ball is 5 people. You got total advantage.
And that's how we met. And then we started golfing together.
So did you guys live by each other or what?
Yeah. Like initially 5 years ago, we lived like maybe a half hour, 25 minutes away. So not far. And now we live maybe 7 to 10 minutes away. it's part of the actual story of how this company started, was him helping me move 2 years ago.
So you guys become friends, and what were you guys doing? Like, what were your full-time jobs? Or what were you doing?
I run a hardwood flooring installation and refinishing company, which I still run.
And I was running a human detection video surveillance company. It was a company that had basically the highest end technology for security. That was video surveillance linked to the closest police car. So if there was an incident on a site, they would get the immediate feed after the monitoring station identified it was a crime. Closest cop car would get the feed and they would come and make an arrest. So I was a sales guy there for 4 years, and then I became a business development manager, and I was in charge of like setting up new offices, hiring sales guys in, let's say, Toronto, Calgary, Saskatchewan, and we also moved eventually to Texas, and we have an office in Dallas now. So I did that. It was good, but I was able to resign in September and pursue this golf thing full time. So that's pretty exciting.
So do you feel like Mark, that total bullshit that he gets to work on the golf site, golf all the time, and you got to lay flooring right now? I'm just kidding.
Oh, even especially yesterday.
Oh my God, I couldn't imagine.
What are you up? I'm like, oh, dude, I'm sweating like you wouldn't believe today. He's like, oh, cool. I'm just driving out to, I got to go grab a few things. Oh, awesome.
I'm going to go to Tim Hortons, and then I'm going to...
I got a lunch meeting.
There's a Phillies game on later. I'm going to watch that.
Are you free to golf at 1?
Yeah. I just love when people ask you shit like that. They're like, hey, are you free like at 10 to go golfing? No. Like, no, I'm not. I could do 6 a.m.
Yeah, that's exactly Mark. No, Mark complains a lot about his day job, and soon enough he will make the transition. Soon enough,
I literally cannot wait for transitions. I think about it all the time. I'm like, it takes a while. Everyone's like, oh, you'll get overnight. It's like, no, man, it takes a long time to be at a point where it like really can pay what you're doing. Your life, and be able to reinvest the money into the company, right? Like that's the thing. But yeah, I mean, just keep your head down, grind. That's the best. That's all you have to do. Like, don't get frustrated. Yeah. I'm not telling you. I tell myself this stuff too. Like, it's all works the way it works. So,
well, it never seems to work. Never seems to work fast enough either. I mean, I was even thinking last night, I'm like, man, I'm just ready. When's this going to happen? And I just keep thinking, all right, well. And I'm glad to hear from you too, that it just,
Yeah. I got some friends, like, I'm not going to say which brand it is, but they make golf gloves, and I'm friends with these guys. And like, they were literally on the cusp of like quitting their jobs, all of them, right? Like to go full time, and then COVID hit. So like, then they couldn't, even though golf took off and stuff like that, they're like, no, I can't lose that job. Yeah. So it's like, even when we don't think it's going to like, yeah. Everyone's like, oh, when are you going to make the jump? I'm like, not for a while. Like, I got to be in a place where I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I mean, this is an investment, right? In your future. So
100%.
So let's tell the story, because I like your guys' story. So one day Joel goes, hey, I want to move. And he's like, I'm going to ask my new friend Mark to help me move. And Mark's like, I got nothing to do, so I'm going to help Joel. And Joel's like, and I'm going to put a new security system in my new house. And he's like, I wonder if Mark will help me. And he's like, oh, but Mark's like, no, I got to lay floor. I was kidding. All right, tell the story about how you guys started off.
Really, started off.
It was pretty accurate, I bet.
Until you got to the security portion. So the house that I was moving into, it's right here, actually. Let me flip the camera. You see that 2-bay garage door there?
Yes.
Those black doors?
Yes.
So those used to be a carport. So I turned it into a garage. So in that carport, when Mark was moving me in, we were just hauling stuff into this carport because we hadn't got the keys yet to the house. But the guy was like, yeah, you can move stuff in the carport. I'm like, all right. So we're hauling stuff in the carport, and the very back of the carport was like a few things that the guy didn't throw out yet that he was giving away to Goodwill or throwing out. And one of the things was just an old classic bag of crappy golf clubs. Like, you know, the classic, like Arnold Palmer,
Tommy
bladed-
Armors and
Yeah,
like the weird old bags that are like,
yes,
I love those old
like
bags.
ones from the 60s or 70s that like the bladed irons and just like no one can hit these things. Like, and then the woods. So I said to the owner was there and I just said, hey man, or what do you want with these clubs? Like, do you want us to just throw them out? And he goes, oh yeah, I'm just giving those to Goodwill. So I think I passed the bag to Mark and we both kind of looked at the clubs like for a brief second, and we see this club together that looked like, well, what is that club? Because it was in this like gold vinyl sparkly head cover. Like super, it did not.
Mark wanted it for his. Mark's wanted a head cover.
but it was a head. It wasn't like a new. You could tell the head cover was something from the '60s. So it wasn't like you're like that's a weird head cover from the '60s, and that must be the putter. So he pulls it out of the bag and tries to take the head cover off, and I look at him, and the zipper is rusted, so it's got a zipper on the back. So then I'm just like, okay, so I just rip the head cover along the zipper line and pull the head cover off. We both look at it and it's a wooden head putter. And we both look at each other kind of like, what the heck is this? And we're looking at it and it's clear that it's like a novelty piece. Like somebody gave it to somebody for a gift, because on the face of the putter, it said Gun Alliance on it in behind a big, like half an inch thick of epoxy. So it said Gun Alliance. So we're like, oh, that's interesting. And Mark goes, hey, you mind if I take this with me tomorrow? I'm playing in a charity tournament. And he's like, my putting can't be any worse. And I'm like, sure, dude, take it. I don't care. So the next day, Mark, why don't you take over?
So I'm at this tournament, which was it was actually a flooring tournament. And so there were tons of guys in the industry that I knew that run different shops, different small businesses. And I'm warming up on the putting green, kind of getting ready, kind of also just get a feel for it. And I'm rolling these putts and I was actually doing really well with it. And I don't know what the exact head weight of this putter was, but it was super, super light and super upright too, almost like a field hockey stick upright. And these guys in the industry are coming up to me, hey, nice putter. I'm like, thanks, man.
Probably talking shit, aren't they?
Oh yeah. They're like, one guy comes up to me, oh, Mark, I didn't know you were so hard done by. I could have brought you another putter.
Oh.
And I was like, no. And I'm like, oh, okay, man. I was like, well, you try it. See what you think. I said, I think it feels great. So while we're warming up for this tournament, there's like 8-10 guys who are coming over to me asking me to use this thing. So I called Joel and I'm like, dude, there's so many people who want to check this thing out. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, I actually like it.
So then that's when my brain just started going into hyper mode. And I'm like, holy cow, did we actually maybe find something in the middle of this space-time continuum, like weird, like, did we find something that doesn't exist yet in the world of golf? So I quickly Google it and I'm like, oh crap. No, there is other wooden putters already. But then I'm doing a little more research and I'm like, wait a minute. Every other wooden putter I'm finding is more of like a novelty putter. It's more of like Bradley Putters. He does an amazing job. And it's like, hey, if you're a huge, Pittsburgh Pirates fan, he can make you a Pittsburgh Pirates putter and you can use it, or you can just have it on your wall as a showpiece. Right. And I think they sell for like $1,000 US. So we were like, man, or I said to Mark, I think there is a gap in the industry where we could have a niche product, if it performs well, that we could do really well in the golf industry. So Mark's like, oh, okay. So I said, dude, what do you think about trying to recreate that putter that we found together? And he's like, yeah, I guess, like when I'm at work, I can try to cut some wood and try to recreate what that putter is. So that started the journey of Mark making numerous prototypes of, like, from scratch too, Paul. There was no so this is 2 years ago now, and there was no YouTube tutorial. Well, actually, it wasn't even.
There's not any YouTube tutorials on how to make a wooden putter. I'm surprised.
Well, actually, I think there is now.
Mark should have done that. This is how you make your wooden putter.
That's right. So when Mark was first trying this out, we're like had to figure it out from scratch. So he's literally, Mark, why don't you tell him what you were doing at work? Because I was away on
not working.
Mark, no,
Yeah.
I was working.
No, not you, Mark. Mark was still working.
Yes.
Like, where are the floors at? And Mark's like, hold on, I got something.
That's right.
All the while trying to keep it hush hush. So what I was doing is what we noticed with this the putter that I found is it looked like a piece of plywood, or almost like, even on another podcast where they were asked, they said, did it look like a skateboard? And essentially it did look like a skateboard, where it was the shaft came down, and then it sort of, the head kind of was one piece that went up right into the shaft. And so I was trying to recreate that and create that bend with wood. And so the only way I knew how to do that, the only way I knew how to do that was to first get it wet. And then I built a jig where I could bend and laminate the wood to that shape. So I had this putter on my job site. I'm tracing this putter on a piece of MDF, and then I started bending it and clamping it. And Joel's calling me, how's it going? I was like, dude, this is not easy. This is not going to be a good road here. And then I would take this piece, this chunk that almost like a hockey stick now. And then I would actually sand it with like a kind of like a grinder. So I would sand it and essentially start sculpting the head. So that was the first crazy prototype. Yeah, it was. And
it's so weird too, because like, honestly, man, I know nothing about woodworking, like zero. And if I had that, I would not be able to do that. I would be like, oh, that's a good idea. And then I would probably move on, because I would not. And like, literally, it's what you know, which is so weird, right? Like, what are the odds of that? Like, it's so, of all the things, it's not like you're a steel guy, you know what I mean? Or a metal worker or whatever. It's like, oh, I know how to do that.
Right.
And then it kind of, every prototype I was working on getting the prototype done quicker, but also having it look better. So the whole time this is happening, I'm at work or wherever I am, talking to Joel, and thinking about how we can make it faster. Cause I'm like, there's no way we can scale a company like this if I'm bending wood or at work or anywhere. I said,
it's so time consuming, right? You're just like, this
exactly. So every kind of prototype, that's what I was working on. Okay, how can I make a jig, or make, a jig is like something like you would put the piece in and you could just repeat what the process that you're doing.
Yeah. So all right. So then that was 2 years ago, right? And so you started making the prototype. Forward. No. So what happened after that? So you got how did you finally get the first prototype done? By doing that? And how did it look? Did it look like crap, or was it cool?
I would say it was probably like 4 or 5 prototypes in, and Joel's laughing because what we used to do is we used to go to Value Village and buy golf clubs for $2, and then we'd hack the head off, and that's what we'd use for putter shafts.
That's smart. Why not? Right?
So except they weren't putter shafts. A lot of them were just iron shafts. So
hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
So he probably had 40 different prototypes along the first, I would say, 3 to 4 months. And then September hit. So this is September of 2019, right, Mark?
Yeah.
September 2019 hit. And we had a prototype finally that was like, I thought, I was like, okay, Mark, I think this is good enough to actually show people, because everything else was kind of pretty hideous, and the weight wasn't right on, like nothing, like we were still figuring things out. And we finally had one that that I should say I wasn't embarrassed by, but it feels bad because Mark's the one that made these things. So then I called my buddy up. He owns a marketing company. He used to be involved in the golf industry with a company that used to make golf clothing. I forget what they were called, but it was like a certain type of material, and it would make your body temperature like 10 degrees cooler. So he ran that company, like all the marketing for that company for years. So I was like, okay. Eric must know the golf industry and how we can approach the industry, what we should do or who we should talk to. So I called Eric over to my house one night. I said, dude, you got to come to my house, meet Mark, my buddy Mark. You haven't even met yet, because we think we have created something that's going to revolutionize the golf industry. And he's like, what did you make? And I go, I can't tell you, man, like this, because we were keeping this thing so secret that we wanted to we almost wanted him to sign an NDA before he came to my house, even though he's a friend of mine. Like, it was just weird like that. So anyways, he comes over and we're like, okay, Eric, this is what we've created. And he looks at it and he goes, okay.
He's like, all right, what's for dinner?
Like, yeah, but he's not a guy that you can even read any, he's not emotional about things. So I'm just sitting there and I know Mark, it's Mark's first time meeting him. So Mark's sitting there like, who the hell is this guy?
He's like, what the F? Seriously, get this guy out of here. Because Mark's all excited.
Yes. So then Eric sits there for it was probably a 2-minute silence, of silence. And Mark's sitting there.
He's just sitting there on the couch and he's just kind of looking at the club, turning it, kind of looking down the shaft. And kind of like Joel said, like, this is the kind of guy you say, hey man, how's it going? And he goes,
even though he might be jacked, he might be having a great day.
He's like so chill.
Yeah. Yeah. So he says, 2-minute pause. And then he says, well, you know what? He goes, I don't know anything about this, this product or what can happen in the golf industry. But he goes, I do know somebody that does. It's a good buddy of mine. His name's Sam Goulden. He's in California. He's a PGA. He's a PGA instructor, and he owns Minimal Golf.
How did he know Sam? I guess everybody.
So he worked with Sam from the clothing stuff.
Like Sam came up here, and he was hired as like a pro-am, and he was doing some of the
back
shooting.
in the day.
Yeah,
like when Sam was still doing all that stuff. That's cool.
Yeah.
So Eric says, I will back you guys and I'll help you launch this company if Sam thinks this is a good idea. And we're like, oh, okay. So I said, okay, do you have Sam's number? Can we just call him right now? This is like in my house. And he's like, I guess. And he texts Sam and Sam's like, oh, I'm actually at a wedding in Washington State right now. And Washington State is like 20 minutes away, just over the border from where we are. So I'm like, dude, I'll just drive over there right now. This is pre-COVID, right? I'm like, I'll go show him a putter right now. And Eric's like, okay, well, let me ask if he's busy. And Sam was like, oh, I could probably meet with you guys on Saturday afternoon or something like that.
Because Sam was at a wedding.
Yeah. He was at a wedding and he was going to meet us after the wedding, between the reception or something. And I'm like, wait a minute here. This is too I think we're rushing this too fast. And Eric's like, yeah, maybe we are. Eric's like, let's just try and get a meeting. You guys can have a Zoom meeting with him. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. So we book a Zoom meeting with him and we tell him, so we have a Zoom meeting, the two of us and Sam, and we introduce ourselves. We tell him a bit of the story. And then we say, we think we've created a putter that takes away, it's like your body knows how hard you should swing. And you get a true feel from the club when you go through the impact. And for some reason, it's working better than any. And I said, it's not placebo because we've tried it with friends. We've tried it with ourselves. And something about this putter is better than any other putter we've tried. And Sam's like, oh, interesting. He goes, well, for the last 15 years, he goes, every year companies try to get me to try their putters. And he goes, I just say no, because I was fitted at David Adele's school for putting. And he goes, I've used the same putter the last 15 years. But what you guys are saying, if it's true, I want to try your putter. And we were like, awesome. So that was a good sign, right? We're thinking, oh, this guy's willing to try this putter. This is great news. So he goes, why don't you guys ship it out to me in California? And I'll tell you what I think. And we're like, we look at each other and we're like, oh, okay, awesome. And then I'm thinking in my head, this is our only prototype that we have that's decent. I don't want to ship this to California because what if it gets stopped at the border? So I look over at Mark in the car and I'm like, dude, we should just go. And we're still on the Zoom call. And Mark's like, yeah. And we say to Sam, hey, man, why don't we fly out there and actually show you the putter? And Sam's like, no, you don't need to do that. You don't need to spend all that money, like, to come out here. And Mark and I both have wife and kids. And we're like, no, we'll come.
No, we won't go to California.
Just the two of us. We'll come out there. Like, we'll show you. Because it's like, we also get to show this guy our only prototype, but we also get to take a little trip to Cali. And Sam goes, yeah, like, okay, let's book it. That sounds great. Like, we can go out to the local course here and try out the putter. And I'll tell you guys what I think, my honest feedback. It would be great to meet you guys. Any friend of Eric, he goes, any friends of Eric, I know that you're good guys if you're friends of Eric. And we're like, awesome. So we end up going. So we book our flights to California. And Mark, why don't you tell your experience from the morning of?
Yeah, Joel picks me up. It's like 4:30 in the morning. And I'm kind of getting this like feeling of like first date. This is a first date. We met somebody online. Now we're flying 2,000 miles to go meet Sam.
It's going to be a catfish.
Like,
it's going to be like
that's the word I've been using. He's not going to look. He's not even going
to be there.
Yes, pretty much, man. We're like,
MTV's waiting for you. It's like, look at these two desperate dudes from Canada looking for someone to play their wooden putter.
And so, I mean, nothing really eventful about the flight. And then we get into our hotel, and Joel's he's actually got a sales call, and that takes like an hour or whatever. And I'm like, Joel, give me Sam's number. Like, should I text him? What should I say? Like, I'm writing this message. I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of weird. Delete. I'm like,
hey man. Hey man.
Yeah. Hey, it's
how's
Mark.
it going?
Oh yeah. It was so, we were so nervous. We were even nervous, like Sam was going to judge what hotel we stayed in. Like, we were thinking like, oh, we better stay in a nicer hotel, because if we stay in a crappy hotel, Sam's going to think worse.
So you stay in the Motel 6, like in Compton.
Yeah.
So we were somewhere in Manhattan Beach, and we finally get Sam texts us back and it's like, yeah, you guys just come to the studio. Here's the address. So we're like, oh, awesome. Okay, we'll just take an Uber. So we hop in an Uber, throw our clubs in the back. And while we're going to his studio, we're like so nervous, talking about, man, what's he going to say about the putter? We're like, everything is on this. Like, if this guy likes the putter, then we can move forward to the next step. So we show up Sam's studio. He's got his earbuds in and he's on a conference call. And we walk in the door thinking like, oh, he's going to give us his full attention. So we walk in the front door and he's like, oh, hey guys, just on a call. And he's like pointing to his ears and we're like, oh, okay, cool. So we haul our bags in the studio and we're just standing there kind of looking around and we're like, oh, it's cool in here. Like, it's got that California, like,
yes, it was
vibe.
Badass. Yeah.
Yeah,
really
it's
nice.
it's like white with like polished concrete floors.
It's like 2 blocks from the ocean.
Yeah, exactly. So we're like, oh, this is ballin' studio, like prime location. So he's on his call and we have our golf bags there, right? And he walks over on his call and he looks in our golf bag and he grabs the wooden putter and he's got like a little like simulator there. So he had a mat that you hit off of. So he takes the ball over to the mat while he's on this call. And he goes, you mind if I roll a few putts? We're like, yeah, of course. Go for it.
You're like, no, man, get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. So he rolls a few putts and he's like, And you can't tell if he's saying it about our putter or if he's saying it in his call, right? So Mark and I are sitting there like, what the hell is going on here? We just flew. It's like now 11 in the morning.
And you're tired. You're probably getting hungry. Yeah. And you're like, dude, it's like 7 hours.
So Sam goes, hey guys, I'm just going to finish up this call. Why don't you come back? I've got another call right after. Why don't you come back in an hour? Go grab a bite to eat. And we're like, oh, sure. Yeah, no problem. Like, we're just like, yeah, man, awesome. So we walk out the door and Mark and I aren't saying anything till we're about, I don't know, 2 blocks away. And then we both look at each other like, what the hell just happened? Like, what did he think of our putter? He didn't even say anything. And Mark's like, yeah, what was that? And we're like, yeah, what was that? Like, we don't even know. And we're like,
and then I'm like, I remember the optimist in me was like, yeah, well, he didn't say anything bad, except he didn't say anything.
And then like you come back to his place and the doors are locked and he's like gone.
Yeah.
And he's like already like selling them.
So we go grab a bite to eat and we walk around down by the beach because it wasn't quite an hour yet after
you guys
we
held
ate.
hands and probably like had romantic
ice cream. Yeah, ice cream.
And we're just like, okay, yeah.
Oh yeah, try this.
We get back to the studio and he's like, oh yeah, okay, let me show you guys around. And he's like showing us around his studio. We're not even talking about the putter yet. And he goes, oh yeah, so this is what I'm doing for minimal. And he's like, oh, why don't you guys could have a shirt? And he gives us both a shirt and he goes, why don't we head out to the course and I can try the putter? And we're like, yeah, awesome. Let's go to the course.
Oh crap.
Yeah. So we're also like, oh crap, in a sense of now we're going to be playing with a PGA instructor and we're just both like average 10 to 15 handicap guys. Like we're not good, like really good golfers. So we're super nervous. So we go out to this course and he's like, yeah, let's go to this. This is my favorite local course. It's called, is it Windrift?
I think it's Windrift. Yeah.
Windrift. It's like behind the Marriott in Manhattan Beach. And it's like a little par 3 executive course, but it's like gorgeous, like well-maintained palm trees, like perfect conditions. And we walk into the pro shop with Sam. He's like, hey guys. And they're like, Sam, like you can tell he goes there like
every day.
Time, right? And he's like, yeah, I just got some Canadians with me today. And the guy's like, oh, hey, nice to meet you guys. Canada, hey. Like, and then they just start joking about Canada.
And you're like, yeah, I've heard that one a million freaking times.
Yeah. So we head out to the first tee box and it's 116 yards or 110 yards. I think I watched the video the other day.
You recorded it?
Yeah, we'll tell you why in a second.
I know why, but I didn't know you recorded it.
Well, we didn't record the full thing. We just recorded after. But anyways, it was 110 yards to the pin. And there's a restaurant on the left. People, like 30, 40 people eating. This is pre-COVID. And there's a pond on the right. And there's no practice swings. There's no going to the range before, right? It's just like, let's get out here and try this thing. So Sam's like, all right, let's spin the tee. See who's up. So goes to me. I'm first. I'm like, oh, great. This is awesome. I better hit this green. And then Sam spins the tee again, Sam, and then Mark's third. So I get up there and I hit the ball and I'm just thinking, just get it on the green, dude. And I end up hitting like 10 feet above the hole and it stuck. And I was thinking in my head, holy shit, that was an amazing shot. But I have like a straight face, right? Like I do this all the time.
Yeah.
And I turn around and Sam's like, great shot, man. Great shot. And I'm like, thank you. Thank you. And I'm thinking in my head, holy cow, this PGA instructor just said, great shot to me. And he's up and he hits it low, like bottom side of the hole, 15 feet from the hole. And I'm like, good shot, man. But I'm thinking in my head, I just shot a better shot than him. And Mark's up next and people are eating, right? Their lunch and kind of watching, not really watching. Mark's up next and I'm nervous for Mark because I'm like, oh man, Mark's going to shank it in the water. He's going to like just duff it or like, who knows what's going to happen, but he's got to be super nervous if we're both on the green, right? So Mark gets up there and he hits his ball and Sam goes, oh, that's going in the hole. And I'm thinking, that's a really good shot. And Sam's like, that's going in the hole. And it hits 6 feet above the hole, grabs, backspin, boom, in the cup, hole in one.
That's insanity.
I freak out. Like,
Full freak out.
Was that your first hole in one, Mark?
Oh, yeah. First hole in one.
Just insane, dude. First hole in one. I throw my bag to the side. Like, I think I like threw it 10 feet. I jump, grab Mark. People in the restaurant are screaming, jumping up and down. I've got Mark in the air. I feel like my body is like somewhere else because it was just like this surreal experience. And Sam's just shake. I look back at Sam during this like screaming, and Sam's like, knew it was going in, knew it was going in. And I'm like, this is mental. And we grab our bags and we're like running to the green, like sort of like half running to the green, so excited. And then I start filming. And the crazy thing is Sam's bag, so he has a minimal golf bag, and you can put your cell phone in the minimal golf bag and tape your swing.
Yep.
And we were talking about that before the shot. Oh, we should tape our round. But we didn't do it on this first hole. So I started recording.
That would be the best like commercial for minimal too.
Dude. So I start recording like halfway as we're walking to the green, and I'm just like saying like, hey, this is Mark's first hole in one, blah, blah, blah. And we walk up to the green and he grabs his ball, and like you could see the ball mark like 6 feet above and just this massive divot. It was so awesome. And then we were talking later, Mark and I remembered on the plane, Mark said, imagine one of us got a hole in one today. So it was like super weird because he like, it's almost like he spoke it into existence. And we
manifested it.
I've never had a hole in one. I still haven't had a hole in one.
I didn't even come close.
So anyways, getting back to the putter. So Sam used his own putter that first hole, and I think he made birdie. And then we get to the second hole, and Mark hits it on the green again. Not a hole in one, but hit it on the green. Mark nailed his birdie putt with the prototype putter. And Sam goes, there's some great advertising. He goes, 1 putt for every 2 holes. And we're just like, we look at each other like, yeah, all right. And we're both thinking, does he like the putter yet? Like he hasn't even tried it. So then Sam grabs the putter at that hole and he tries it. And he's like, oh yeah, this thing has some really good feel. And then every hole he was using the putter. So I think the second time he used it, he drained a birdie putt. And he's like, oh, this feels really good. He's like, I like it. And he's like looking at it and inspecting it. And he's like, oh yeah, I really like what you guys did here. He's like, what is this lie angle you guys have here? And we're like, oh, I think it's 70-degree lie angle. And he goes, oh, okay, yeah. It's like standard lie angle is 71 degrees. So he's talking all this technical stuff about putters that we didn't know. Mark's been making these prototypes, but we didn't know like exact specs of every putter and what they should be, right? We were just doing it off of that original prototype or the original one we found. So then Sam's like, oh, and I really like how it's 0 degrees of loft. And we're like, oh, okay. And we both look at each other like, what does he mean? 0 degrees loft. Of course it's 0 degrees loft. And Sam goes, and we kind of look at Sam and we're like, what do you mean 0 degrees loft? Aren't all putters 0 degree loft? And Sam goes, no, dudes. But he said it like super chill.
Oh, he's
like,
so chill. Yeah.
He wasn't
I can hear him talking
us.
to. No, he's teaching you.
He's not judging you at all. He's like, yeah, no, most putters in the industry are 2 to 4 degrees loft. And we're like, but he's like, I really like that yours is 0 degrees. And we're like, dude, Sam, we didn't even know. We thought all putters were just straight. Like, why wouldn't it be? And he goes, no, people want loft on it so that you get the ball up when you're putting, so you're not hitting it into the green. And he goes, but with your guys' putter, for some reason, that's not an issue. And it's just, you're getting a true roll right off impact. And we're like, oh, awesome. So we're thinking like, man, there's something else that we didn't even know good about this putter. So anyways, he ends up playing the whole round with it. And he still didn't tell us whether he like loved it or not, or whether he could see this being a business. He was liking it. So we go out for dinner at his favorite. Do you remember what it was, Mark?
I don't remember what it was called. It was like a
seafood
fish place, right? Yeah.
Seafood joint. Yeah.
Yeah. Might have even been called Fish.
Yeah. Who knows? They knew him there. Like just walk in the door and it's like, Sam, hey man. So we get a table and it turns out our server was from BC, like from Vancouver, where we were from. So it was like super weird.
No. I remembered it. So the server was from Ontario, not far from where you grew up, but we were eating BC oysters.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So all these like super weird
random, like
all these coincidences. Yeah. And then Sam kept saying like, man, if this isn't destiny that you guys are supposed to be here, I don't know what is, because the hole-in-one, all this other stuff happening. And we're like, okay, that's good. That's good language. We like that language. But what does he think about the putter? And then over dinner, he's like, well, you know what, guys? And now we're like warmed up to each other so we can like talk normal, right? There's no like hiding emotions. And Sam's like, you know what, guys? I think you're onto something really special here. He goes, I've been in the golf industry for a long time. And he goes, I think you guys have a product that could really disrupt the industry. And you have a product that is really unique and cool. And with a bit of tweaking, I think this could be huge. And we were like, oh, awesome. Like, this is great news, right? And I remember us even saying to him, what do you mean you think this could be huge? What does that mean? And he goes, well, I have a golf bag company that I've just started out. And I think this putter could be a lot bigger than my golf bag company. And we're like, oh, wow. He thinks our putter company already could be bigger than his own company. So anyways, he's like, I think you should tweak this. He's talking about the prototype and what we could do to design it. And we're just like, man, I think he went to the bathroom at one point, and Mark and I just looked at each other and we were like, dude, and we were on the same page. And we're like, we need this guy on board. Like, we need this guy in like a part of our company. And what should we do? And Mark and I were like, well, let's just see what he wants. So he comes back from the bathroom and we're like, okay, dude, like, we want you a part of this company. Are you interested in helping us develop this company? And he goes, I would be honored. But he's like, honestly, guys, I'm not looking for any kind of ownership because, you know, my life, he's like, I want to be able to pick up and go to Costa Rica at any time. I don't want to be tied to anything. He's like, let's say in 3 years, your putter business blows up. I don't want to have to stay here. I want to be able to just cut and go. And we're like, yeah, we like that. I like that. So we offered him, I think we said, yeah, we'll bring you on as a 1% owner of our company for nothing, no strings attached. You just give us a hand. We'll listen to you. You know the industry. You know what we should do. So this is September 2019. So for the next 6 to 8 months, Mark was making prototypes and shipping them to California and getting Sam's feedback. And then Sam would try it out on the course and like, okay, this is what you need to change. You need it to be a little bit heavier. You need this. Let's try different species of wood. So we were having conference calls weekly with Sam and going over all this stuff. And then Sam's like, okay, you need to get this USGA approved. So he's like, this is what you need to do. So then we contacted the USGA and we're like, this is what we're up to. Can we send you guys, what do we need to do to send you a prototype to get it approved? And they're like, this is what you do. So we ended up sending the USGA, I think 3 different putters. Like the first prototype, they're like, okay, you have to change this. Second one, they're like, tweak it a little bit more. And then finally, the third prototype we sent them, they're like, yeah, this is good. This is good. And we'll pass it. So we're like, awesome. So all this is happening while we're creating the prototypes. And then in March of 2020, so just before COVID was hitting, we were sending out prototypes. Like, I think we had about 30 or 40 prototypes sent out to friends and family that golfed. And we were like, hey guys, we're making these putters. We're still in the prototype phase. We need your honest feedback. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Would you be willing to buy a putter from us for like $150? And they're like, yeah, of course, like no problem. So at this time, Mark is spending like 10 to 20 hours a putter,
oh my God,
like making these things, right? And that's just making the head. So we're sending these out to friends and family and getting their feedback. And my brother-in-law got one in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And he got it and he's like, yeah, the courses are all closed down now because of COVID, because he got it at the end of March. And he goes, so I'm just practicing with it in my house. And he's like, but I like the feel. We're like, okay, cool. So then all of a sudden, like fast forward, like 2 months later, courses open in Edmonton. And my brother calls me, my brother-in-law. And he goes, dude, I was just golfing with my buddy and his dad, and his dad's the old announcer for the Edmonton Oilers.
Oh, that's cool.
And he was like the announcer for 30 years. And he goes,
like
he really
Gretzky
loved.
played over.
Yes,
Gretzky was there. When Edmonton was like the best team ever.
That's right. So he goes, and he really liked the feel and look of the putter. And I'm like, oh, awesome. And he goes, and he's asking if I could give your phone number to his daughter, who's the head of the sports network, Global News Sports in Edmonton. So it's like CBS Sports in LA, whoever's in charge of that. So that would be the significance, except Canadian. So it's like 100 times smaller demographic. So I'm like, yeah, sure. So she calls like 2 days later. And it's like, hey, I heard about these wooden putters that you guys are making. Tell me a little bit about it. So we're like telling her that, we think we've made something, that we're working with this PGA instructor in California. And, we're on to something in the industry, and we think we found something that doesn't exist. And we're creating a putter that's going to be the best feeling putter. And we're PGA approved. And she's like, this is awesome. She's like, can I do a story on you guys? And we're like, yeah, sure. And she's like, can I come bring the news crew next Wednesday? And this is like a Friday. And I'm like, absolutely. And she's like, okay, I'll message you for your address and details after. And I get off the phone and I call Mark, and I'm freaking out, and Mark starts freaking out. And then we realize, wait a minute, what is a news crew? Where are they going to come? Like, Mark is building this in his garage, dude. And his garage is like the classic garage with two young kids. He's got bikes and strollers and kids toys, and like, and then he's got his wood. That's right. And he's got his woodworking stuff on the side. So I'm like, oh man, maybe it's not a good idea for a news crew to come into your garage. What if we go in the carports I had already transformed into a pottery studio for my wife. So I said, Mark, I'll ask my wife if we can go in there and make it look more of like a shop. And my wife's like, yeah, of course. So we bring everything over to my garage, where my wife's pottery studio is, and make it look like a workshop. And it was good. And then the news crew came on the Wednesday, and they filmed, asked us tons of questions. We went to a local course, and they shot like people putting with the putter on the local course. And we don't have a website yet at this point, right, Paul? Like, there was no business. It was like prototypes for friends and family. So Mark, go ahead.
So we're kind of freaking out. We're like, okay, the filming went great, but we've only got a couple days here. We're on the phone with Sam. Sam, what do we do? He's like, oh, just call my buddy Nitesh in India. And so I'm on the phone with Nitesh in India. He's working like 19 hours a day. There's like a 13-hour time difference. He'd text me. He'd be waking up at 4:00 in the morning, and he would text me, be like, hey, I'm just going for a run first before I start my day. He'd go for an hour run, and then he'd be working for like 19 hours a day. The guy was a freak. And he's like, hey, can I log on to your computer remotely? Go into this and open. I'm like, what am I doing? This has scam written all over it. This guy's
like, oh, you've got $1 million in your account. Send me some Target gift cards.
Yeah, exactly. And he ended up hooking us up, got our site going. And then we just kind of were waiting. We were like, all right, well, it's almost 5:00, which the news was going to start, or 6:00. I don't remember. And I just remember turning on the news. Yeah. Turning on the news and thinking, like, wanting to watch, but not wanting to watch. And then just like, holy smokes, like, I hope I'm not on TV too much. And then watching the piece, and I called Joel right after. I'm like, well, that was pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. No, it went really good. And then all of a sudden, our Shopify account started blowing up.
Really?
Cha-ching.
Like the movies.
It was like walking through a casino. Like,
we didn't know. Yeah, we thought, like, we had said before the news piece hits, we're like, man, if we could sell 10 putters from this news piece, that's success. Like, that's awesome.
Wait, how many did you guys sell?
We sold 200 putters in the first 2 weeks after that news piece.
Holy crap. And those are all just Canadians.
Yeah.
Right?
And
like that's just whoever can watch the show in Canada.
That's right. So we were like, holy cow. We didn't have inventory. We didn't have like nothing.
You only had 20 putters and you're like starting to like call your family saying, hey, can you send that back? You need that.
Yeah.
Nothing was. So this is a year ago. This is a year ago today, dude.
Shut up.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. This is a year ago today. Is that right, Mark? A year ago only?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
So June 16th, Father's Day last year, we were up till like 4:30 in the morning.
And you're on my show today. See, that's meant to be too.
Yep.
So then all of a sudden we had a company, man. So Mark and I are just like, holy shit, this is nuts, man. We're not only are we like fluking out here and like finding, and Mark's like, we're making these things and they feel good, but now we're on to something even better, that it's actually helping people's golf game. Like that's nuts to us. It's like, why isn't,
especially since you guys don't know what you're doing. Right. Like
exactly.
Like, let's be honest here.
Let's be honest. I mean, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing because you wouldn't have done it. Right.
That's right.
I mean, probably because conventional companies or whatever that have been around forever would be like, oh, never. That's just not part of their model. Right.
Yeah.
Like, and you're just two guys who like stumbled on something that like never really took off because of back in the day. Right. It's a 50-year-old club that is really a good club, and it's a better than what's out there now, which is crazy.
Well, and I think really what our biggest asset is that we had no idea how complicated it was going to be. We had no idea how difficult it would be, how much technical components there are. Like we were just like, well, let's just figure it out, I guess. Let's blue collar this. And it just, I think we really did fluke out on a few things, but I mean, we have been we've just kept pushing and pushing and pushing to get it to where it's finally gotten.
Which is, we're pumped about that.
I'm really excited for you guys. I can't wait to get mine because I think what you're doing is really cool. And I love your guys' story as to how this whole thing has come about in the last 2 years, really. I mean, it's almost like let me go movie about it someday. I mean, even though it's about a putter. Maybe if like Sam wins the Masters, they're gonna be like the golden putter, and then I don't really know. But I mean, I think you guys are gonna. It's a matter of time before everybody knows. Probably that golf.com thing you guys are doing will probably help out a lot to get it more out there. And I mean, look at one little news conference sold that many units. Like seriously, I was like. I mean, think how much money you would have to spend on Facebook marketing or, Facebook. Like,
who watches the news? Like, we were like, who watches the news anyway?
Old people who play golf. That's what it is, dude. That's that's the demographic. People think, oh, I got to make the coolest, hottest shit. No, you don't. You got to sell to the people that play golf all the time. It's not us because we don't have time. So it's like, my parents watch the news. I'm like, why? Just look at your phone. But so imagine when the next people like us are seeing it. That's what I think will, really blow up big time. But, I'm excited to get it. Thank you for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to get mine. Hint, hint, hint. I know it's in process. And I'm excited for the way you got what's going on with you guys. Queue. Yeah, I'm number 800 probably. But no, it's cool. I'm really excited for you guys. So thanks for being on the show. And I can't wait to do more with you guys.
Sounds good. We'll have to do it soon.
All right. You guys take care.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Behind the Golf Brand Podcast.
You're going to beat me at golf?
Stay connected on and off the show by visiting golfersauthority.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment.
Golf is always more fun when you win.
Stay out of the beach and see you on the green.